Hello and welcome! Today we're going to be ranking the Trails games that are currently available to be played in English, although Zero and Azure get a little interesting there, now that the releases are back down, but for a little while they were available in English, and they're coming back in English again soon, and I have played them, so they're on this list. But we will not have Hajimari or Reverie on this list, because I haven't played it yet, and because it's not available currently officially yet, right? Also, this is the highest ranked tier list for ranking the Trails games on Tier Maker, made by Armagon, and it has two versions of Trails of the Sky Third, so we're just not going to rank one of them. But we're going to go in order, and this shouldn't be too difficult because I've been doing this myself at the end of every video. I'm full disclosure, I'm recording this before I record the review for Cold Steel 4. Because I have a funeral today, and so I'm about to be leaving after I finish recording this video. But let's start, because otherwise I'll just ramble forever. And I'm not going to talk a lot about Cold Steel 4 because I'm going to be recording a review for it when we get there. But FC, I deleted the D tier because I didn't want anything. I don't think any of these games are bad, right? There are some of them that I like a lot more than others, but I don't think any of these games are bad. It's kind of like the Yakuza tier list of like, hey, all of these games are good, so now I just have to pick my favorites out of all of these games. So, Trails in the Sky FC, we're going to put it A. That's a very solid game, right? That is a very good game. It starts off really slow, it takes a while to get going, but it's a very good game. And the story's really solid, the music is great. I love Joshua and Estelle so much. That game does such a good job of setting them up, as well as introducing all of the elements you're going to need to know about in the Liberal games. You get all the stuff with Colonel Richard. It's a very, very good game. However, it is immediately followed up by a game that does everything it does better, which is Sky SC, which is going straight to Triple S tier. And that's my biggest issue with FC, is that it's a separate game from SC. It's not a bad thing at all. It's very good, in fact, but SC is just better. And so, like, while I sit here and I go, man, I love Trails in the Sky, I'm actually talking about second chapter and third, and not so much first chapter, even though first chapter is an incredible game in and of itself, which is why it goes in A, for sure. Because I do still really love first chapter. I think I could replay first chapter on its own without any other stuff and even enjoy it more now. It's the game that hooked me on this series, right? But Sky SC is one of my favorite games of all time now. It broke into my top 25 easily within a week after I'd finished it, as I spent time chewing on it and thinking on it and placing it in my mind. Sky SC is one of the best games I've ever played. I absolutely adore it. The characters are incredible. The callbacks to FC are great. The developing story as you go through it is so good. It's so many things all at once. You have that incredible chapter that is just, hey, go back around all the areas you've already been, but now things have changed everywhere and there are restrictions, and I love it so much. Sky SC is maybe possibly my favorite game in this whole series. We'll see. But I really, really like Sky FC. I think that soundtrack is incredible. I think that the characters are great. I think the story's great. I love everything to do with Joshua's story in this game. In a lot of ways, like, FC is Estelle and SC is Joshua. But at the same time, it's also the other way around, right? The two are intrinsically tied together in a way that I think is really, really solid. And I like it a lot. A lot. Man, we may have to move this down to B. We'll leave it in A for now. Because Sky Third is also going... Sky Third's going in S. You know what? Yeah, Sky Third's going in S. I love Sky Third. I understand why other people don't, right? I understand why people don't like Sky the Third. But I don't care. I love it. I think, like, the big thing for me with Sky the Third is that I don't mind the dungeon crawling aspect. I miss towns. For sure I do, right? But I think the doors give us all the story interaction we really need. I don't mind the dungeon crawling. And I just really like Kevin Graham. I love his story. I love, in a lot of ways, how Kevin and Reed, to come later, are like both doing the same thing but taking it in different directions. They're both trying to take all of the burden onto themselves instead of share it, which is different than what Estelle and Lloyd do, of course. And for Reed, it becomes this problem that Class 7 is able to help him work his way out of, right? And I'm going to be trying to avoid as many spoilers as I can here, but if you're watching this video, you should know that anything could get brought up from any of these games. So if you don't care about spoilers, skip ahead to the end to be able to see where the ranking's at. I know a lot of you do that anyway without watching the video, so it's fine because you won't even hear this part. But Reed, you know, he gets that help from Class 7 to be able to change that and actually start accepting help. And Kevin has to be forced to accept help, basically. Kevin pushed himself so hard that he nearly dies and is forced by his friends to let him accept help. And it's really interesting to me to see the difference in those two of this is what Reed could have become if he had been allowed to just keep going, you know? I love Kevin Graham. I love Sky the Third. I love Ren. And that goodbye scene at the end of Sky the Third where that song plays. I think it's like To a Passing Tomorrow. It's da 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 da. Every time I hear that song, I get super emotional. I love that whole sequence. I love that game. Sky the Third is incredible. Zero, I think, is also really good. I like it more than Sky FC. I like Sky Third more. But Zero is a very, very good game. I think that it is super solid. It does a great job introducing you to Crossbell, making you care about what's going on. It does an incredible job of selling you on these four characters, on the dynamics between them, on how good all of them are. I really, really like Zero. I think that Azure is just, again, it's Zero but better, right? But I also think that you need FC, you need Zero to be able to set up for the incredible second game, right? Yeah, I love Zero a lot. Zero's very, very good. It did a great job of immediately endearing me to these characters, and to Kia, and to Zeit, and to Dudley, and to Sergey. And I love the SSS. I really do. It's funny because I put the SSS tier like I do in all these tier lists, and I really wanted to just put all of the SSS's games into the SSS tier, but we can't do that. But we can put Azure in there because Azure's great. Everything that goes on with Wazy and Noelle in this game is incredible. The escape scene and the scene with Lloyd in the forest where he's just like, break my legs, I still won't stop. It's like, heck yeah, man. Randy's scene outside of Mates is still one of my favorite scenes in this entire series, where it just suddenly starts playing Miss You. It's so good. It's so good. And then you get the truth of what happened with Guy and that incredible scene. Just like Estelle in SC, you get a scene with Lloyd and his brother in Azure, and it's very, very good. Yeah, I love the unraveling, as it were, that happens in Azure. It's incredible, and I can easily see why it's a lot of people's favorites. I think I still like SC more, but man, Azure's an incredible game. These two games alone make me question why people don't talk about the series more. You know what I mean? Like, these two games alone deserve to stand up there with Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy 4, 6, 7, 9. You know, these two games alone are incredible. So now let's get into Cold Steel, and this is where people are probably going to disagree with me. I think Cold Steel 1 is very solid. I think that is a good game, right? I think that of the games, it is my least favorite, I think, but it is a good game, right? We need to scroll down a little bit here to get the whole list. I don't think it is bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it is definitely my least favorite out of all of them. I think it has the slowest start. The start also leads into some more tropes that I'm not a huge fan of. But I do think that it does a great job of introducing you to these characters. It is slow, right? It doesn't try to speed you through the introductions. it's slow, and it takes a while to get all the stuff worked out with Class 7, right? But while it is my least favorite, I do think that much like Sky, FC, and Zero, it is the setup for the second game. And I think in some ways the move to 3D really hurts this game because it feels a lot slower because all the animations are slower. Thankfully, the PS4 versions and the PC versions have turbo. You're able to speed them up. But I still really liked this game, man. I like Class 7. I didn't at first. At first I only liked Gaius. But I really like Class 7. I think they all won me over. Except for maybe like Elisa. I think it kind of took a little bit longer for Elisa for me. I think Cold Steel 2 is where Elisa really wins me over. But I liked most of these characters a lot. And there was a shining standout, that's how words work, of all of them, which was Crow Armbrust. And man, do I love Crow. So it might not surprise you when I do this. Because, man, I love Crow. Cold Steel 2, I think, fixes everything that I had an issue with from Cold Steel 1. I still think I like Zero more. The small contained story of D Therefore G, I think is really, really good, right? But Cold Steel 2 is very, very solid. And I think the things that it still lacks in a little bit are it is still very, very slow. But once you get into the second half of the game, you get into some really, really cool stuff. And the whole story for Cold Steel 2 is incredible. I love Cold Steel 2 story a lot. I really love the stuff right at the end. I think that the rush with the Infernal Castle is really, really good. I think that then having another whole section on top of that wasn't super necessary, but I get why we had to do it, right? It just, at that point, I was reeling from the blow that I had just been given, and then the game went, hey, but just keep going. And I was like, oh, but I just want to cry, man. No, I think Cold Steel 2 is very, very good, right? I think it is a very, very good game. I think that Cold Steel 3 is an even better game. And I think it builds on that levels, right? It's Cold Steel 1, Cold Steel 2, Cold Steel 3, building up. And I think Cold Steel 3, I kind of want to replay Cold Steel 3 now that I've beaten 4, because I think that it will mean more to me now, and it already means a lot to me. I love the evolution of Rin as a character. He's come so far, because here he is kind of generic JRPG protagonist for a little bit, right? By this point, I think he's already shaken free of that, and he's doing great. But here he is a standalone character in his own right. But again, it's tough to say that because you look at where he's at here versus these two and this guy, and it's really hard to put him on their level, right? It's not fair to him because he's having to not only carry, and this is the problem with Cold Steel 1, right? He's having to carry the burden of brand new cast that is bigger than the others, introduced all at the same time, and the biggest area in Erebonia itself being really introduced all in the same game. And that's why, like, despite the issues I have with Cold Steel 1, if you go back and listen to that review, I'm pretty glowing in that review. I like Cold Steel 1 a lot. It's just that of these games, it has the most of the things I don't like in it, which is, man, it takes forever. And this game takes forever. Cold Steel 3, I think I put like 130, 140 hours into, but it doesn't feel like it takes forever because it's not slow. It is that gradual build-up, right? In the same way that Zero or, well, not so much FC. FC's pretty slow. But it is that gradual build-up that Cold Steel 3 has that really makes it shine for me. That, hey, we're slowly progressing towards the big moment. And when it happens, it's every bit as effective as the end of Cold Steel 2. And I think it's a really, really, really good game. It also has the problem of trying to introduce new characters, but I think New Class 7's introduction is really, really good. And as you slowly build it forward, it ties into everything else going on in a way that I think is really solid. Plus, Randy's there. So, you know. And then Cold Steel 4, I mean, this might not surprise anybody at all, but it's also going in SSS tier. I'm not going to talk too much about it here because I'm going to record a full review for it when I get back from the funeral today, because I need that pick-me-up. But I think that it stands toe-to-toe with my two other favorite games in this series, and it's crazy to me because I went into it thinking there's no way, right? There's no way it can be as good as Sky, SC, and Azure because it has so much it has to tie up. And I think that in some ways it's not, right? In some ways it's got too much that it's responsible to tie up for, and it means that you are constantly. It's almost like the opposite problem of Cold Steel 1. There's not enough time. You're building towards something that is so big that you have all of these little things you're trying to patch up, and yet honestly somehow Cold Steel 4 pulls it off. I think that the way that it winds up tying up just about every loose end is really, really solid. And I wouldn't have been upset if this was the last game in the series, really, because I feel like it's a satisfying ending. I'm obviously excited to play Hajimari. I'm really excited to get to Kuro, right? Let me know your thoughts on these in the comment section down below. Any of these could change at any moment. But right now, this is how I feel. If you feel like Cold Steel 1 should be higher, it should be up there. I almost feel like I should do this because this seems more reasonable to me. Yeah, I think this is good. I think this is good. Because I think any one of these games is a great standalone game too, right? I would play any one of these again. I will absolutely play these three again. No doubt in my mind. I will probably play these two again. There's a pretty solid chance at some point I'll play these two again. And I might play these two again, right? But I will definitely play these again because I love them. I love them so much. Let me know, again, your thoughts in the comment section down below. And until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum. Trails has to offer.